Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining in today. This is a video series by Lead by Impact, and we're going to be talking to leaders who share their own hero's journey with team culture. And today we have Nick Casares, is the lead head of product at Polyant, which is an investment firm and technology incubator that is paving the way in blockchain innovation. For the past 15 years, Nix has worked across a range of industries from cloud storage to marketing technology to public safety to commercial real estate. Thank you so much, Nick, for being here. And also throughout his career, he served as a direct contributor of leaders or leader on UX and product teams. He spent a disproportionate amount of time of his career working in startups and innovation teams. Early stage product development is in his DNA and where he feels most comfortable. Thank you very much for being here today, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So Nick and I go back quite a bit. We've known each other for a few years now, and we met at a design meetup, right? I think it was SDXC or UX Speakeasy?
UX Speakeasy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nick was recruiting people to bring into San Diego Startup Week. And we just hit it off from there and been buddies for several years now. So Nick, we're going to dive into you as a leader. So in my personal opinion, I think I've seen the way you lead. You've really been able to bring people together to get things moving forward. And so we want to dive into your personal story of a time where you had some challenges with team culture. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, what is it you think people really want in a team culture?
I think they want a few things. I mean, I think that primarily people are looking for a place where they can feel safe, they can express themselves, they can feel valued, they can bring their best contributions to a team. I think they're looking for a place that is open, that is accepting, and welcomes a range of diversity.
Nice. Yeah, that's something that I've been hearing a lot more lately, especially with this idea of how do we get different perspectives? How do we bring innovation? And one of the key elements of innovation is bringing in different perspectives, which means we have to bring in diversity, right?
Absolutely.
Diversity of thoughts, diversity of experiences. So absolutely. Now, as a leader, what was one challenge you had regarding your team culture?
Yeah, so maybe I'll take this question in two directions. One, as maybe a master organizer of a larger group of people, and one in more of a day-to-day kind of work context. So Michael, when you and I met, I was the managing director for San Diego Startup Week, which is a large volunteer-run organization. It's an event that gets put on in the San Diego area for startup technology companies and the startup community in general. It's a 5-day event. It takes place over multiple venues, and it's run entirely by a team of volunteers, 100% volunteer. The ranges from 80 to 120 people, depending on the year. And so the year that I was in charge of managing the event, which was a huge task, a huge undertaking, I think I had an opportunity to flex my leadership skills and highlight some gaps that I hadn't touched on before in smaller settings where I'd been working more directly with small teams. So when it came to one of the challenges that I had as a leader in that context, it was really about it was a couple of things. It was how do I share the vision in a way that vision can then be shared beyond a single meeting, right? How do you inspire people? How do you give them something that they can hang on to and that they're excited about working toward? Now, there's probably 100 different answers to that question depending on who you ask. But I think for many leaders, they're rarely given the opportunity to flex that muscle until maybe a lot later in their career. So for me, it was an interesting opportunity, to do that outside of a work environment, which for me was an interesting challenge. To do that with people who were unpaid, which means that they're working entirely out of motivation, right? Personal motivation, whether it's passion for the community or passion for startup technology. And so it's really a matter of digging deep with people and figuring out what motivates them, and then, finding ways within your leadership persona to help them execute on that passion, right? To give them space and room to be able to run with the vision in a way that's going to be good for the collective effort.
What do you think is one of the kind of bigger challenges when the vision isn't there? Like, what happens when the vision isn't there?
Well, I think the vision is always there in a volunteer run organization. It just may be 100 different visions, right? And
Right.
so, so when the vision isn't cohesive, I think that's when you bump into problems. And I think that's, as a leader, that's where I had some of these, my most challenging moments, where how do I bring these people who are here for different reasons around the table and get them to move this idea forward as a team? And I had some tense moments in that situation, some moments where I really had to dig deep and question my own leadership skills. Is this the right direction? Should I approach this a different way? And thankfully, I'm a pretty self-aware person, and I have a great network of friends and mentors who have been down the leadership path. And when I was in those challenging moments, my first reaction was, I need feedback. I need to
Mm.
talk to some other people who have been in similar situations or just can give me some more perspective. And that's what I did. And it was really helpful just to get that feedback from people. And not that they're going to prescribe a solution, right? Ultimately, the leader's job is to solve the problem and to provide the solution. But they gave me really valuable perspective. They gave me different ways to think about motivating people, different approaches that I might not have tried on my own. Whether that was taking a more hands-off approach and delegating more, to all the way to finding different advocates within the team who then could be my sort of inner circle of people who could help the larger group move things forward.
And when you were in that moment, right before you started getting the feedback,
Yeah.
what were you feeling, and what was going on inside? What were your emotions, and what do you think the team was feeling as well? All these volunteers who are there because they just want to be, rather than they're getting paid
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah. I think this, what I'm about to say extends outside of the context of volunteer organizations, right? It's probably even more so in private businesses and enterprise or government. But it comes down to confidence, right? When people are looking for vision, when people are looking for direction, they want to follow somebody who's confident in that vision and direction. And so in those moments where I was struggling with what to do, I think it was easy for my volunteer team to see that. And in those moments, I think it chips away at the confidence level. It drives up the anxiety. People start questioning, are we doing the right thing? And, as a leader, if you let that go too long, I think that you can get into a situation where it's really hard to kind of gain that trust and that confidence back. And so I think it's very important for leaders to, I'm not saying go out and fake confidence. That's not what it's about. But it's about giving yourself the space to reflect, the opportunity to connect with other leaders who can give you perspective, and then just the conviction to move forward with your leadership strategy in a way that is going to exude confidence and give people reassurance that you're taking things in the right direction.
And so one of the things it sounded like, because I know I've heard a lot of people talk about just this fear of moving forward because we're not on the same page. I don't want to do anything that looks wrong, that looks against the team. I don't know how to
Sure.
communicate that. I don't know how to engage in that. And so it sounded like one of the ways you did that was just to start opening up the conversation and saying, hey, what are your thoughts, right? Getting the feedback. Was there
Yeah.
anything else you did that helped really reduce those anxieties, that helped people feel more confident in getting a unified vision?
Yeah, I think very early in my career, I got some advice from a mentor, just along the lines of sometimes you just need to let people know that you're a person. You have to show a chink in the chain of the armor. And which it means that, for me in those moments when I was feeling less confident or had some anxiety about the direction of things, um, and again, this is kind of the flip side of the confidence factor, but it's being willing to be human, right? And being real with people and not putting on a front about confidence, not faking your way, but being honest and saying, I need your collective input, right? I want to know what you think, and I want to know what you think. And it sounds like we've got a few different perspectives here at the table. So let's talk about this. So I think it is about conversation. It's about transparency and being willing to bring people to the table.
Was there anything in particular in those conversations that really opened people up? Like, what do you think you were able to do? Because talking about like, hey, okay, look, we're going to have a conversation about vision, people would still feel hesitancy.
Sure. Sure.
So one of the things you said was kind of letting them know that you're a person, and, you know, sharing that maybe you might not know everything and you want to hear more from others. Was there anything else that you think helped really open up that conversation?
I do. I think it's being humble enough to say, hey, I need some help. You know, I think leaders oftentimes are leaders because they're willing to bear the brunt, right? They're willing to do the work and take on the extra assignments and get things done, which is essential. You can't be a leader without those qualities, but at the same time, we are also people who tend to take on too much and tend to say yes to things when we should say no, or I need help. And there was a very pivotal moment during that experience where, you know, it was probably several weeks before the event, you know, and some things were coming down to the wire and the pressure was just high. And I realized that, you know, I needed some help from the team that I wasn't asking for. And that was an important thing. I needed to realize that I wasn't asking for it. It's not that the team didn't want to help me. It's not that the team didn't want to, you know, take on extra work. It's that they needed to know that A, I needed the help, and then and B, they needed to know how to help. So it was bringing that to them, you know, and being honest and open about that, where people said, oh, you know, let me take that off your plate, or, you know, I can volunteer some extra hours here or there. And, you know, it really did change the tone. You know, I think from that moment forward, people just felt like we were on the same team again.
I think that's a great kind of busting that myth that the leader has to know everything and do everything, right? Yeah. There's a sense, and I've worked with several leaders where we work with them over time to like give up control. There was a tech company that I was working with, and the leader wanted to do everything, and he had to learn how to start giving people space and allowing people maybe not to do it at 100%, but be okay with 90 or 80% of the vision. Yeah. And within, as he started to shift, within a couple of weeks, people then started coming to him, and he started even collaborating with them more, and people felt more engaged and comfortable to actually approach him because he opened up the door for it. Yeah. He made the space saying, look, I know I'm like this, and I know that I can't do it all on my own. And the team stepped up, just visiting him time and time again, saying, hey, we need help with this. What do you think about that? And then they would take the task and go do it instead of just leaving him with it. So it allowed him the space also to then focus on the more important things. And it allowed the team to feel a lot more comfortable. So with that, when you did that with your team, what did you see were some of the positive changes that came out of that from your team?
I think one of the biggest changes that I saw, especially in that inner group of people they were the ones that raised their hand and said, hey, I can help. I can put in some extra work there. But I saw a renewed sense of ownership in those people for the vision and for the outcome. I saw a new sense of creativity. You know, there was a particular aspect of the event, which was this sort of outdoor portion of the day where we had vendor booths and people could kind of walk in and out. And it was one of the things that I trusted one of the volunteers entirely and said, you know, this is in your hands and you have the vision and we've talked about this and I trust you. And I really let that one kind of just go with her vision. And I was so blown away by the results. You know, the day that the event kicked off, I looked over the balcony and all of these people enjoying the sunshine in San Diego. We love the weather. And, you know, they're just enjoying themselves and they're, you know, engaged. And it was one of the highlights of the event. And it was because I didn't To your point about control, I didn't step in and try to take that over. I really did just let the person run with their vision and empower them.
What a great feeling I imagine that was, especially for them to be able to look back and be like, you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome, all me. And giving people that sense of ownership and that sense of pride that they can have in the work that they did in creating that. And so what would you say was the way you grew from that experience?
Oh, so many ways. I think that one of the ways that I grew as a leader is just more self-awareness. I think many leaders, when they are early in their leadership path, they are under the impression that leadership is there's one way, or there's a particular approach that they need to take to be an effective leader. And one of the things that I took away from that event and that experience was there are multiple ways to be a great leader. And one of the universal truths about great leadership is authenticity. And so if you can dig in and you can embrace your authentic self and find your leadership truth and express that with others and be open to sharing that with others, I think you're in a much better position to grow your leadership skills and to inspire people around you.
And I think it also allows for other people to see that they can also be their authentic self as well. And,
Absolutely.
Some people are like, oh, authentic self, whatever. But there's so many people who are disengaged with work, who want to speak but don't feel like that they have a voice. And then there's people who have a voice but they're not really feeling considered. And so getting people to creating a space where people can actually show up as themselves, allow their brilliance to shine, and it's going to be all types of different brilliances. That's where we get opportunities, like you said. I mean, the fact that you work in innovation space, clearly it sounds like it, because you're allowing people that space to allow their thoughts, their perspectives to come, and then you get something better than you originally thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, leaders rarely have the great ideas, right? leaders just help those ideas come into existence, and then they protect them long enough for those ideas to go on and be something.
Right. They protect the little baby bird, and then
Yep.
throw the baby bird off the cliff, and hopefully the baby bird flies, but they'll still be with the baby bird. Well, Nick, I just want to say thank you so much again for spending your time to share your story. And for people listening, I want to say thank you as well. And if you'd like to hear more from leaders about team culture, you can visit us at leadbyimpact.com. Again, thank you, Nick, and thank you for everyone who watched this video. Take care, all.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Bye.